Hey everyone, Steven, the Salon Guy here, and I'm excited to have another consultation with a subscriber, with a viewer. People always reach out to me asking for hair advice, so I said, let me just bring people onto my channel, and I'm super excited today. Today we have Cam, and just by looking at Cam, I think it's a little unfair. You have an advantage because your hair looks perfect. What is going on, Cam? Well, first of all, welcome. And let's talk about your hair, man.
Absolutely. First of all, I mean, I think it's awesome that you're doing this, especially, I mean, they're free consultations. Like, it baffles me that not as many people know about this. I mean, I found out about this like 3 hours ago, emailed you, and then you were like, let's do it. So highly recommend more people do this. It's really incredible.
Thank you.
So I have never really sat down with an expert, talked about what I should do with my hair. I appreciate the compliment. But again, like I've always known like my hair, it has potential. I just haven't put enough like time or care into it as far as like actually understanding what style I should do. And I've been cutting my own hair for about 7 years now, actually. Um, the last time here and there, I've been going to barbers, and I've never really gotten a cut that I really liked, or at least that was sustainable, I should say.
Yeah.
And I'm not someone that goes to these like events where I dress down. I'm a trainer. I work in a gym 7 days a week, so like it typically will just look like this. I specifically didn't do anything with it today, and it'll just be like messy and thinning. It's a little bit thinning, but it'll just be messy and all that. So I've gone to different barbers again, and usually when I cut my own hair, I do the fade on the sides. Last time I did it was like a week and a half ago, so it's a little grown out. Just do the fade on the sides. I'm not amazing at blending it into the top, and I know the lighting might not be perfect right now, but I'm not the best at blending it in as far as like using scissors. But I do my best, and people say like it looks good. And I guess the other thing I should say is I really hate when my haircut looks too put together. Like I don't like that neat style, and I know you had mentioned this in your last consultation. I don't like, the quiff when I see guys like perfectly quiffed. I really love like a messy, disheveled, looks good, but looks like you haven't put a lot of effort into it. Like that's what I want, and I know a lot of
Right.
guys probably want that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that, man. And it's funny because there's a number of things I want to go over. First of all, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever watched any of my haircut tutorials and gotten like tips from them of
Yes,
cutting your own hair?
many.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, cutting your hair at home, I'm going to just say it right off the bat. It's not the easiest, especially when it comes to doing the back. Fading the sides could be one thing. If you're right-handed, it's easier on this. And then you go, it's not the easiest to do. So I give you credit for taking it on yourself. I always say, do at your own risk. However, since you are doing a pretty good job, okay, and I would never even think, oh yeah, you do your hair yourself because it looks pretty good. Now, there's a few styling techniques that I'm going to show you, which is going to save the day. Then I'll go into some product stuff, which is just as important, and then some cutting stuff, which you probably aren't doing. So let's start with the length. Now, I'm looking directly into my camera. If I peek over this way, that means I'm looking at you. This is the only way I can see because I'm using my my cinema camera here, so I have to look directly into the camera. But if I peek over, I'm looking at your hair, okay? Now, the first thing that I would suggest is sometimes the longer the hair on top, especially in the front, the chances that it being a little bit harder to style and it looking too perfect is going to happen because you've got too much length in the front. So what I would do if I were you is I would actually take the front down slightly shorter than it is. Now, you said you just cut not that long ago.
Yeah.
I know it may look like, oh, my hair is already kind of short, but believe it or not, even if it's like a half an inch too long in the front, that could actually prohibit the hair from having that kind of messed up, disheveled look. And a lot of times people go really short here, and then it's this big, huge this big wave right in the front because they're afraid to cut it too short.
Yeah.
So what I would do is maybe just cut it slightly. I'm not talking like 1.5 inches, 2 inches where it's like, that much on top. But in the very, very front, don't be afraid to go a hair shorter. Okay. Now that's just on the length. What's really going to save you is if you have a pair of thinning shears. Do you have a pair of thinning shears?
Yes.
You do. All right. Now, in many of my videos in the past, I have a technique where you actually take like a chunk of hair and you twist it. So let me see you do that right now, just in the very front. Just take a piece and just twist it around like a little chunk. Yes. Now, what you want to do is hold that piece when you're cutting. And then what you do is you take the thinning shear and you do one chomp towards like the mid shaft to the end of it. Don't do it down at the root.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna do a little chomp, and then you're gonna let go. Take another section, twist it, and do a chomp.
Okay.
Do that throughout the entire head on the top. Now, what that's gonna do is that's gonna create different lengths in your hair, and it's also gonna take out a little bit of weight. When you remove those kind of like chunks of hair, okay, it's going to create kind of different textures within that hair, which is going to allow it to look like it's a lot more messy and disheveled. All you need to do is actually, now we're going to go into the styling part of it. So a lot of people, when they style their hair, especially dudes with shorter hair, the styling technique is this. Look in the mirror and it's, a lot of this, a lot of patting down and just kind of, the last thing you want to do is pat down, because when you pat down your hair, you're actually matting it down on your head. What you want to try to do is actually use your fingertips like this. You see this? It's like a claw. You put your hand like a claw and use the palm of your hands. What you want to do is create circular motion and feel like your palm of your hand is actually pressing down and creating circles, especially in the front. So try that right now. You want to really, really go down. Don't like be light with it. You really got to press and try to create circular motion like you're matting your hair. And what's going to happen is, and actually even be more aggressive, like almost like you're starting a fire with, like that.
So like if I'm like this.
So you can do it. Yep. You can do it with the fingertips. You can then take the palm and almost like you're pressing your hair on your scalp and creating little circles. Yes. Like that. Yeah. Now,
so you do this like everywhere, even in the front?
Yeah. Yep. In the front. Now, when the front is a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
And you could already see what it did to your hair. It actually gave it some volume and texture without even any product in it. Now, when you have those different kind of lengths from the thinning shear, when you get used to doing that technique, you're actually trying to mess your hair up. Most people, when they style their hair, a lot of times, like I said, it's like this, little matting down, you're almost too soft and gentle.
Yeah.
With short hairstyles like this, when I want to create a ton of texture, I'm trying to mess it up and mat it down and create little circles as much as I possibly can. Then you make little tweaks. But the minute you start patting down and matting and actually not even doing anything, the hair is just going to sit there.
Yeah.
So the more you try to mess your hair up in the front, it's actually going to create volume. It's going to create texture. It's going to give it that messy, lived-in kind of look. The last thing is product, which is really, really important. Now, obviously, I have my own hair products. I have some really, really amazing hair products that I would suggest for you. And if you use code YouTube20, you get 20% off. So YouTube20, shop.thesalonguy.com. That's my direct website. It's an exclusive code that I have here on YouTube, so 20% off. I would suggest it's called talc. It's a powder. Doesn't have talc in it. It's just called talc. That would be absolutely a godsend for your hair. How you use it is you dry your hair fully, you dab in a couple of dabs of talc throughout the top of your head, and then do the messing up technique.
Okay.
What it's going to do is actually help absorb some oils. It's also during the day, if you're working out, stuff like that. I know it may be tough because you're working out or you're training and you may be sweating. The hair may easily just come down. However, if you're working out, or if whoever's watching they have a job where there's this, constant on the go, the best thing to do is you can just literally try to mess your hair up in between clients. Maybe run to the bathroom, use the hair dryer, and do a quick one. You can use talc, the powder, and just kind of reshape it.
Okay.
But again, that product is going to allow you to try to mess your hair up. I also would suggest my crafted matte paste,
Yeah.
which is a phenomenal product. Now that's going to give you a lot more hold and texture and kind of a set it and forget it type of scenario. I would stay away from like a pomade, a hair gel. It's going to do, I mean, that's not going to give you what you're looking for that style.
Yeah.
Because when I see your hair, I see, you know, modern, trendy, and you can shape it up and improve it and enhance it even more than it currently is by the techniques and things I just shared with you. So, you know, as far as the length on the sides, it looks good. I would just maybe trim the top down a little bit shorter, do the techniques with the thinning shear, and just try one thing first, but make sure you take and you twist it so you're grabbing a decent section of hair, and just start maybe towards the ends. I don't know which thinning shears you have. You just got to be careful. It's not like ones where it's chopping off a ton of hair. But you will see some hair come off in that shear. That's why maybe start more towards the ends and then work your way towards the middle. Just never go all the way down.
Yeah.
Once you start to do that, it's like, you know, grab, chomp, grab, chop. Just obviously watch your fingers. So, you need the fingers.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how I would actually cut your hair or someone with your hair length is I would actually try to mess it up. I would try to chomp into it. I would, the styling technique would be exactly what I just told you. And I think that would really make a huge difference, man. You'd be really surprised, you know?
Nice. Awesome. I do have a few questions off of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so in terms of the cutting technique, obviously, like right now, genuinely, I tried to leave it so that it would be how it looks when I don't like it. Right now, like, I mean, I guess in this lighting, I actually do like it. Unfortunately, I wanted it to look bad, but so it is thinning a little bit, like, and I have very it's fine hair, right? So fine is
Yeah.
very thin. I have very fine hair, but I have a lot of it.
Yep.
So when I'm cutting, so I'm gonna try and show you. So on the sides
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
like I've always had trouble with like where I leave it longer right here and where I fade up with the clippers, right? So like
Clippers.
so I have this, like my head shape is out and then down, right? And so I always
Mhm.
try to like get rid of this right here. So but I always end up going way too high. And like I always regret it. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it looks like like my haircut actually isn't that bad right now, like compared
Yeah.
to some of the ones I've done. It always looks like a mohawk when I mess it up. And so
Right.
I have trouble with like how long, like should it be two here, should it be three here, and then how do you fade it in? And then the back obviously is very difficult on my own, but like
Yeah.
just
So,
blending
so
it in, yeah.
yeah. So the back, what I would suggest doing is, taking, I don't know what clippers you have, but like take like the longest guard and just go over it with the clippers because it's going to cut it longer than even if you're holding it with your hand. So sometimes using a longer guard, like a number 8 or a 7 or something like that, it's better just to take it down short throughout the back here, like this area. It's better just to kind of get rid of it, but still have some hair. If you know what I'm talking about. Like if you use a
Yeah.
number 2, if you use number 2 or a 3, obviously it's gonna be a lot shorter. But you have to find that happy length, and just don't be afraid to take the clippers from like here back, by leaving it a bit longer. You know what I
So
mean?
as far as like head shape is concerned, like if
Yeah,
it's my head goes up like this and the highest part of my head is like right here and then
yeah,
it goes down, like you're saying from the highest point, or you
yeah.
like I don't know where essentially to like make that
Yep. So
separation.
what you need to do is basically look in the mirror. So you could start with like a number 8 guard, which is like the highest, and start from like back here, like the
Yeah.
further back right in this area. Because if this becomes the highest point, that means as it grows out, it's going to look the highest. If you cut this shorter, that's going to camouflage it. So as it grows, it'll be shorter into longer, so it doesn't look so high back here, and this looks very flat. So
Is
it's
that what you
always
want though? Because I've seen you do it in other haircuts where it's higher here, and you're telling me to cut this shorter. So like I've seen haircuts where you do and other people do where it's higher here down.
Mhm.
Like I just don't want it to look flat. I would rather like the shorter into long. Is that just preference? Because I like some haircuts work with some people with the higher up here and shorter
Yeah.
here.
Well,
Otherwise,
it's more a matter of you knowing how to work with that. Because the only reason I tell people to cut it shorter back here is simply because I've heard people who cut their hair themselves that they're always like, oh, I can never get this here, and it always looks too long, and it grows out, it looks always longer than everything else. So that's why I say cut this shorter. I only leave this longer back here if someone has like a hardcore calic, but I'm hardly leaving this really long and this short and then this long. It's really rare.
yeah.
Most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, I'm going shorter into longer. Now, it could be just slightly shorter, but what that does is it just helps with the flow of the haircut. It helps keep everything more balanced. It's also easier to do it when you're like doing it at home. As far as the sides and the corners, usually I try to go where the recession line is, or the corners. So if it's going like way up in here, right, and the corners like over here, for example, if you bring that, yeah, if you bring it too high, like what you have, and you shave all that off, that's a whole bunch of hair that you can have to kind of work into the style, especially if it's like very, very flat in through here. If it's very rounded in through here and you feel like it's like a mohawk all the time, that's because you're missing that length in through here. So you may have to leave it a little bit longer and leave it up to like this area here, right where the corner is. And then
Okay.
you start blending from like here up.
Like not here, but a
Yeah.
little bit higher.
Yeah, I would say where your fingers, that's where you start blending, and you leave this part a little bit longer into the corner. Like
Okay.
this part into here, because that's going to help round out the shape of it. Now, if you want it to be flatter in here and not so rounded, then
Yeah.
you just take it shorter. But what you could also do is take certain parts of your head shorter, like from here back, and leave some of the length in through here. So you're actually like going shorter, 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 and it's longer right into these corners here.
That's what I would prefer to do.
Yeah, because right
Yeah.
now you've taken your corners so short that it's too short. So what you need to
Mm.
do is just maybe bring up the number one or the two like a lot lower, and then start working it in lower and lower, so that by the time you get to here, you've got so much more hair to work with. So it's not so like really high on top and really short into here. That's why I was
Mm.
suggesting cutting this down in the front a bit may help balance it. But I also agree your hair looks pretty good right now. But also keep in mind what you just did to your hair when I told you to mess it up and use that technique. That made your hair kind of come alive too.
Yeah.
It took away that just kind of flat and just there. And it's also giving your hair some support. You're kind of teasing the scalp and teasing the base, which is creating texture and like some volume, and you can kind of reshape it easily. So if I were you, I would grow these corners in a little bit more and
Okay.
and work that into the haircut. And then
Yeah, they're short.
yeah, so I would leave that part, grow that in that corner there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because right now you've cut it so short that like there's a lot of people who may want to cover that area up, and you can't if it's too short. If you buzz it way up to here, you've removed the shape in through the corners fully. It's the
Now, as far as like comparing the lengths of the sides, I've never seen this on your channel.
Yeah,
Comparing the lengths of the sides to the length of here.
yeah,
Like if I were to pull, I don't know how you do that. Do you pull it up or do you pull it down? If I were to pull this down or up,
yeah.
should it be exactly equal to this when it's up here? You know what I
Slightly,
mean? Like that's how I cut it, like a square.
yeah,
I guess I'm trying to do this real quick.
right.
Like these are shorter,
Yeah,
clearly.
that's
Do I
what,
just cut all this basically right here, like across?
yeah,
I don't know how to cut.
yeah,
That's what I mean.
yeah. Well, how do you cut the front then? How do you cut the top with what?
Dude, it can't be. I should go to a barber, honestly, if we're being honest. But like, I just like, I'll get it really wet, and then I'll just put it up like this,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
and then I'll look at where it's uneven. Which again, I know what I'm saying is probably super amateur.
right.
I'll look at where it's uneven, and sometimes I'll just take the scissors and I'll just go like this
Yeah,
across.
that's
Like I don't
fine.
know if that's cool.
That's fine. Or just use a comb and hold it in your fingers, and just while it's wet, just comb it up, grab it, and what's above your fingers is what you should be cutting. But if you comb it and grab it, the sooner you grab the hair, whatever's left over, that's the length, and you just bring your fingers up. So the less hair you see when you bring your fingers, the less it's going to cut. The more hair you see when you bring your fingers up, then the more you're going to be able to the cut. So it depends on how much hair you see. But yeah, you can do that. You can comb it straight up and just, you could also point cut into it where you're pointing this way to give it a little more texture and kind of chip into it, which gives it more of a disheveled look. Sometimes if you do that right off the bat, you're missing cutting some of the length, so it looks like it's still pretty long. So I would always suggest cutting the length, cut the entire thing, then go back in and break it up and chop into it and make it choppy and kind of textured, So as far as this, if you hold it straight up like this, what happens is you do create a box type of shape, because it's a square shape is basically like this. So you're creating a box on your head. Now, does that work all the time? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the head shape. I myself, that's why I'm saying if you cut the top just slightly shorter, let this grow in a little bit longer, it'll kind of round things out a bit. And also, I know you probably like your hair shorter because you're a trainer. You like to feel like you're, but try where it's like the sides are like a number 3 guard. And work.
I could never make it through that.
I know.
I can't make it through growing my hair. That's the hardest thing in the world. Like, especially as someone who has the capability to cut his own hair.
Right.
I'll make it through, but like I'll have one bad day where I'm like, I hate this, and I'll just cave and shave it off.
Get rid of it.
I do that once every 2 months.
Right.
When I'm growing my hair out, and then the next day it's gone.
I know. No, I know. I get it. It's like, so yeah, so I would suggest, as far as the corners, how long it is, I don't like to have it too long, because for me, it's always best to have the flow like a focal point. Right now, your focal point is the hair in the front, which is a bit longer. So you always want to have a focal point. If this is too long in through here, then yes, it'll work into it, but what happens is it ends up looking very kind of boxy in through here, because if you go up like this, it's just going to look like this right from the very, very front, from the top. So you don't want to have it too kind of square throughout the front, in my opinion. That's where having this a little shorter in the front will help kind of balance that out. A little bit longer in through here, a little bit slightly longer, like into the corners. Into the corner. But you could also, again, I work in sections on someone's head. I'll work this whole area one way, and then I'll progressively get into the top. Everything has to flow, right? But when you're cutting your hair yourself, it's hard to do all that. That's why sometimes I suggest always start going shorter from the very, very back, and then work in kind of patterns and layers going towards the front. Maybe start with a 4, then a 5, then a 6. And by the time you get to here, it's like a 7. And you're getting everything going shorter into longer. You know what I mean? Which you kind of have to an extent. But I just think, like, for you have a lot of hair, because you're holding it straight up like this. I can see a lot of the bulk right in through this front area right here. So the only way to kind of tame that down a bit and just give it a bit of that messier look is to try the techniques I shared with a thinning shear, chomp into a little bit, mess it up when you're styling it, and then grow these corners slightly longer. This very, very corner, it's okay to have it, like, you don't want to have it that long where it can reach all the way to here, because it'll just either flop down, but you want to have it kind of progressively going shorter into longer. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I would only shave this off like a really, really short into here if the haircut is super short in the front. Like, everything is super short. So right now, the only option you have for your hair in the front is to just go straight up like this when you style it, because all this hair in through here is gone because it's so short.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's kind of a balancing act, man. This is a very unique kind of consultation, in a sense that your hair looks phenomenal, but now you can see how hardcore and techie it can get. It can get real technical when it comes to haircuts like yours, where now you may go to a barber, you may go to a hairstylist. I hate to say it, there may be a high chance and a high percentage they won't even understand a fraction of what I've been talking about.
I mean, you're in New Jersey. I'm in DC. I'll just come to you.
I'm retired from seeing clients, bro. I retired, yeah. But I do know a guy in the DC or Maryland area. He's a British guy. He's incredible. He really knows haircutting, man.
You can send me that email. I'll happily take that referral and go.
Yeah, he's over in here. I'll even look. I can look in 2 seconds because I people ask me all the time if I cut hair in certain areas. And I'm like, no, I don't. Here we go. He's in Maryland. Are you near Maryland?
Right near it. Yeah.
He's in La Plata.
Oh, that's pretty deep, but it's all right. You can make it work.
Yeah, that's out there, bro. I would. I mean, he's a hairstylist. Is it worth going out? I would just say, like, continue to do it yourself. But but the chances are of you finding a really talented barber or even hairstylist right off the bat of just saying, oh, I'm gonna go try a guy. I'm telling you right now, it's really, look at their Instagram. Look, actually, my video coming out today, I went at like a total rant of how to find someone who can cut your hair well. And when I tell you it's a hardcore rant, because I still to this day get so many people asking me, how do I find someone in my area? No one can cut hair. And I've done numerous videos about it. But watch today's video. Like, doesn't have to, I mean, anytime you get a chance, but or the video from yesterday, actually. So
cool.
It'll help you. But don't just think, oh, I'm going to go to a barber. I mean, he could butcher your hair. You'd probably do a better job than that person can.
Yeah.
I would say just keep tweaking your hair. And I know a handful of guys who do cut their hair themselves because they can't find someone to cut it how they want. But they've learned how to really understand their hair so well that it looks like somebody else cuts their hair because they do such a good job. So,
yeah.
But yeah, dude, I mean, does that help? Is that cool?
Dude, it helps so much. And again, I know you said like it's a unique consultation because my hair, and maybe it's the lighting, but it looks okay right now. And I don't mean to be like that guy coming on and like asking for help that people would be like, he doesn't need help. Like, I don't want to be that guy. Right. It was just like nuanced questions of like how to hide this stuff and how to make this, how to do something that's like not a lot of work and it's an everyday basis and it doesn't look goofy. It doesn't look like I'm quiffing or trying too hard, and hopefully people get something out of this. I'm just more than just I do, but I really
man. Of course, man. Just take that front down slightly shorter. Okay. Try to mess it up. It's really the styling technique. I've had guys like you sit down. When I was seeing clients over many years, they'd sit down in the chair. I would do the exact haircut, and I would say, "All right, let me see you style it." And the first thing they do is they're just kind of like,
the style. I think the styling, honestly, is probably the biggest thing. I'm just not someone who does that well.
I said, what are you patting your hair down for? What are you, dog? Stop patting your head.
Yeah, exactly.
You get texture and volume and messiness from the root. Mess it up. Don't be afraid to mess your hair up. The more you mess it up with the right haircut, that's how you get that, like, oh my God, your hair is sick. And then tweak it once it's messed up. Never mat it and never just do like a one and done, because that does nothing,
Perfect,
so
man.
But yeah, dude, thank you so much for your time. And I hope people, you're probably going to get a lot of questions in the comments below of people asking, I want that hair. How long is it? Blah, blah. So feel free to engage and interact with people in the comments. Sure. When this goes out. And yeah, but dude, thank you for your time, man. And I hope you had a good consultation today.
No, absolutely. Hey, the pleasure's all mine. And thank you again for just offering this for free and just offering this in general, man. I really appreciate it. Very helpful, and looking forward to more of your videos in the future.
Cool, man. And if anybody out here who's watching wants to be in these lives or these consultations, I mean, I've gotten a long list of people waiting, but hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram is @TheSalonGuy. Just send me a DM, and I'm not just bringing anyone on. I mean, obviously, good camera, good lighting, be presentable, well spoken, stuff like that. So I'm not just picking any Joe Schmo cam. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'll take that as a compliment, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. I gotta
I highly recommend. Thank you again, man. Seriously.
All right, bro. All right. Take care, man.
Have a good one.